Hello, and welcome to another episode of you watching me cook myself dinner. Tonight is an extra special episode because I'm cooking something that's extremely simple. Surf and turf, literally beef and then some seafood. Can't be any easier. All the kit we need is already set up here on the stove. We're gonna need our cast iron pan to cook the steak. We're gonna need another non-stick pan to cook the shrimp. And then I've got a little thing there. I'm gonna make a special, extra special, not just special, extra special, butter garlic chipotle sauce. It's going to be this spicy, buttery, garlicky deliciousness on the shrimp. And I guess you could kind of move your pieces of beef around in it too, if that's what you wanted to do. Anyway, to get things started, we're going to start with one of my favorite cocktails, a Bloody Mary. Now, I haven't actually made one of these at home for quite a long time, so hopefully things turn out like I'm expecting. Also, normally I use the Mrs. T's standard Bloody Mary mix. Today, I found something different. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. I'm just gonna try it. We'll see how it goes. This cocktail is really easy to make. We start off with a glass of ice. Now, these glasses, let me show you here. They have these marks on them. See the marks there? I use those to actually measure how much vodka to stick in these cocktails because I don't actually remember or know or anything like that. So basically, we're going to take our vodka here and let's go up to the, I don't know, the mark there. It's about halfway through the glass, but the glass is full ice, so it's not a full half glass of vodka. That would be maybe a lot for one drink. Next ingredient here, Worcestershire sauce, depends on who you are and how you pronounce it. I use a lot of this. I know there's some in the Bloody Mary mix, but you can't have too much of this stuff in a Bloody Mary. So 7 squirts that's what we're going to do. Yeah, and then we'll call that 7 squirts. Really, this thing's going to be brown when we're done. You'll see. It's going to be great. Okay, Bloody Marys need to have a little kick, so we'll use some Tabasco sauce here. Just 3 little spritzes of that. We don't want it too hot. We want to be able to drink this thing and get plastered. And we can't do that if it's too spicy. All right, you can see now that we're about 2/3 of the way up on the glass. I'm going to top the rest of it off with this Bloody Mary mix. Give it a shake. Hopefully this stuff's good. I have absolutely no idea. If you want, you can stick all sorts of other things in this. One thing I found is really good is if you take sliced salami and stick that in the glass before you do any of this. And the Italian dry salami, the oils and stuff kind of get into the Bloody Mary, make it taste really savory, really quite delicious. Oh, glug, glug, glug. Okay, that's it. We have a Bloody Mary. Give this a quick stir. Okay, it's brown, and that's how you know it's good. My. That is tasty. All right, let's get the cocktail stuff out of the way because we do have some work to do here. All right, you've seen me cook steak before. Here, I actually found something special at the butcher shop today. I went in to get some USDA prime beef, and lo and behold, for slightly more money, they had American Wagu and a ton of it. Now, American Wagu is not real Japanese Wagyu, it's American. It's actually a crossbreed of the Angus cow with the Wagyu cow there, and they do that because the real Wagyu cows don't really do so well in this country for whatever reason. And they can't really import the real Wagyu from Japan in any real quantity because the USDA requires meat to be inspected, and there's not a whole lot of meat inspection going on in Japanese prefectures prior to export. All right, so let me give you a quick close-up of this guy. This guy looked great. Check that out. Look at the marbling on that. It's just a beautiful, beautiful cut of beef. Wow, it's going to be great. I'm super excited. So what I've done to prepare this, first thing I did, salted the crap out of it, stuck it in the fridge, let it sit in there for a solid hour. And what that does is it pulls all the water out. We don't want a watery steak, obviously. So it pulls all the water out. We let that happen for a couple hours, honestly. I pulled it out of the fridge, pat it down with some paper towels to sop up any of that water that was hanging out. and let it come to room temperature, which is where we are now. I just patted it down again to remove any excess water that came off of the thing. To cook this steak, we're basically going to pan sear in the cast iron over there. If I had the ability to move my camera, you know, like a normal kind of show sort of thing, we'd probably throw this on the barbecue. This is really fatty, and I don't really like doing really fatty meats in the sous vide, even though that is a way to do it. That is also good. So this has already been kind of salted, so I'm going to actually just salt it a little bit again. Give it a little bit freshly cracked pepper. Now we're going fancy with this. It's going to be a little bit beyond simply throwing it in the pan and eating it. We're actually going to use some garlic, some thyme, and a crap ton of butter. You'll see, it'll be great. All right, a little more salt there, a little more pepper. Boom, our Wagyu steak is ready to rock and roll. But before we can do that, mise en place. We got to get all the other shit together. Okay, so on my resting board, for fun, I have a ton of garlic. We'll be using a lot of that. I also have some thyme that I've wrapped up in a little bundle. We'll be using that later. And then I have some thyme that is just hanging out. So first things first, I actually need to go through all this garlic and mince some of it, chop some of it up, etc. And we start by peeling it all. So easiest way to do that is give it a smash with your knife and then just peel it open. Actually, this is really good. Sorry, I need. That's good. Okay, another smash on the garlic there. Peel that up. Now it's going to get real smoky in here. When we cook the steaks on the stove, we do it at a very high temperature. Pretty much as high as the thing's going to go because we're not fucking around. Don't have time for slow cooking our steaks. That's not what we're doing. If we did that, it would turn out really crappy. And I don't really want to waste this American Wagu beef by cooking it so crappily, if you will. All right, just get through this garlic here. Now I'm using, I don't know, like 6 or 8 whole cloves of garlic. Fun story, I sent my wife to the store once and I told her, hey, I need 4 cloves of garlic. So what she did is she went and she bought 4 heads of garlic. Isn't that funny? Some people might find that funny. Don't want to embarrass her or anything. Anyway, we're almost done peeling this stuff. The actual usage of this, I'm going to need to mince probably 4 cloves. 2 for my garlic butter and 2 for to season the cutting board or the resting board, as it were. I need to roughly cut up a couple to throw in the pan as we are butter basting the steak while it's cooking in the pan there. And I need, I got some for the cutting board, some for the sauce, and some for the that. All right, so for that, I'm just gonna rough chop a couple of cloves up here. What we're trying to do is, you'll see, we'll be basting the steak in butter, and it won't just be butter, it'll be garlic thyme butter. Give it all kind of flavor. That's what the thyme bundle is actually for. So let's roughly chop this up. That looks pretty good. If you make the pieces too small, they'll actually burn in the pan, and we definitely do not want that. So just rough chopping that up. Okay, next thing, we're gonna throw, let's say, actually the rest of this I'm gonna finely mince. And some of it I'll throw on the chopping board, and some of it I will throw in a pan with the butter sauce for the shrimp at the end. Now this whole meal's quick and easy. It sounds super fancy, surf and turf, right? But really, it's going to take 20 minutes. Like the cooking time for the steak, that's a 7-minute cooking steak right there. And let's see, the shrimp's also going to be about 7 minutes to cook. And we'll be cooking the shrimp while the steak is resting, because we're not going to waste any time there with that. Alright, just doing a little rock chop on this garlic here. Get that all kind of garlicky minced up. You ever wonder why garlic is sticky when you cut it up? I've often wondered that. I have not yet Googled why that is, but I'm sure the Google knows. I know why beef, like if you eat chicken, right, with your hands, and then your fingers get all sticky, that's from glycerin in the proteins of the meat that get kind of released when it gets cooked. Okay, we now have some finely minced garlic. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna season my resting board. So I have this nifty little board here that we will rest the steak on later after it's cooked, so that the juices can reabsorb into the cellular structure of the steak. And we're gonna do a thing that Jamie Oliver does, which is to actually season the board. So I'm gonna take some of this garlic we just cut up, throw that on there, and then this thyme, the free thyme, I'm actually just gonna cut that up a little bit. Now we don't want hard stems of thyme, but if I just kind of mix this up, it'll kind of get onto the meat, the leaves will, and little bits of it, and it'll be all right. Okay, and then the other thing for the board here, just to make sure the board's nice, I'm gonna throw a little bit of olive oil. Now we're not gonna be cooking the steak in olive oil because this is gonna be a high temperature sort of process. But while it's resting, it can kind of sit in this flavored olive oil and pick up some of those flavors, and it will be great. Okay, so let me kind of mix that in there. Kind of get that oil covered in garlic and thyme. That is good to go. All right, time to start preheating stuff and get this process started. So, cast iron pan, as hot as it gets. Yep, that's just how that is. The steak is sitting here nicely over here. Got my shrimp. We're not gonna do anything with the shrimp until the steak is done, so let's give that maybe 8 minutes, and then that'll be ready to go. In the meantime, this is a great opportunity for me to take a quick martini, Bloody Mary drink. Gosh, man, have I been drinking all day? It's hard to stay focused sometimes. I also notice I have a stick of butter. Not just a little bit of butter, but a stick of butter. So for the shrimp, we are making a chipotle garlic butter sauce, and that requires a lot of butter. Also, we'll be butter basting the steak while it's in this cast iron pan cooking. So, of course, we will need lots of butter to do the basting. Got my tools ready here. Got some tongs. These tongs actually are good because they have a thing in the bottom where you can just bam, and then they open up, ready to go. So if you buy tongs, do that. Also, scalloped edges have been found to be better for gripping things, and the non-coated metal ends here makes it easy to pick things up. Something called the toothpick test. Next time you're in the market for some tongs, throw out some toothpicks and try and pick one up. See if you can pick it up with your tongs. If you can't, those are probably crappy tongs and you shouldn't buy them. But these are great and they're cheap, and lots of companies make them and everyone uses them. So do that. Okay, in the cast iron pan, while that's heating up, I'm gonna give it a little bit of avocado oil. Now we don't need too much oil. We're not frying the steak in oil. That is definitely not what we're doing. But I also don't want the thing to stick. And that's gonna help with that. Also, when we throw the butter in later, I don't want the butter to burn, so having the oil in the pan will help prevent that. This being cast iron, I get to use this towel to pick it up and move stuff around. Let's let that heat up a little bit more while I enjoy some more Bloody Mary. What are you drinking? Leave something in the comments, like what you're drinking, or maybe what you'd like to watch me cook myself for dinner some other time in the future. You could do that also. I should also note, this Bloody Mary would be great if you threw some olives in there, or even some lime, like some fresh lime, a little squeeze of fresh lime or a lime wedge, something like that. That would be fantastic, and that's not what I did today. Today, it was simple and easy. The real key, I mean, this is it. This is it right here, Worcestershire sauce. And don't get the store brand shit. That stuff is garbage. You need like the real original Worcestershire sauce that British people call Worcester sauce, or whatever they do, because they think they're fancy. Or we think they're fancy because they have some, I don't know, antiquated pronunciation of words. That's what it is. All right, it feels like this is hot. Yeah, and it looks like it's hot. The oil is shimmering. It's ready to go. All right, let's give this a little movement around there. Now, this is gonna smoke like a mofo, so fan on. Also, being indoors, I use a shower curtain to kind of fence off the kitchen from the rest of the house so I don't set off all the smoke detectors, but I can still enjoy properly cooked beef. Here we go, into the pan. Ooh, that's sizzling. All right, so I'm gonna give it 2 minutes on this side without molesting it. It's important not to molest your meat. If you molest your meat, it's not gonna cook right, you know, and that's not really good for anybody at all. So the game plan here is pretty simple. You've probably seen me do this before. 2 minutes on side A, 2 minutes on side B. Then I'm going to pick it up and actually try and get some browning on all of the fat on the sides of the steak, kind of crisp that up and make it turn into a yellow-brown color instead of being white, because white fat is gross. After that happens, I'm going to go ahead and dump a bunch of butter in there along with my bundle of thyme and the rough chopped garlic that we have here. That's going to make this nice garlicky, thymy sort of sauce in the pan. It's not really sauce, it's just butter really. And I'll be using this spoon here, this very fancy device that you can pick up at your local hardware store, to baste the steak and keep it just kind of drowning in fat for a couple minutes. We'll do like 1 minute per side a couple of times, but looking at the size of the steak, it's maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. And I would guess that this steak, 6 to 7 minutes, maybe 6.5. We'll see. But that's the way I like it. I like it with a warm pink center, and I don't know why anyone else would want it without a warm pink center, like a warm or cold red center. That just sounds gross. So let's not do that. But I mean, if you want to do that, do that. That's how prime rib should be cooked. All right, 1.5 minutes. Almost time to give it a flip. Just enough time to have another swig. You know, this would be better with a straw, because then I could drink it easier with ice in the way, you know. Okay. Yeah. About time for a flip. Let's do that. Ooh. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. All right, all the fat on this side of the steak that we just flipped over. Nice yellow brown color. It's gonna have a little bit of crunchiness to it. It's gonna be great. That's how you know it's good. I'll give this one 2 more minutes. And it's gonna be time to do the sides and throw in all the stuff. So let's get ready to throw the stuff in, because we won't have a lot of time. Things are gonna go real quick. All right, so I'm gonna use some butter. Let's call it, I don't know, 2 tablespoons. And this butter is really soft. Cool, cool. Wow, butter everywhere. If you don't use enough butter, it kind of like evaporates and stuff, and just kind of burns in the pan. It gets kind of gross. So you need to make sure you have enough butter when you do this. Yeah, 1 more minute to go. We're getting close. All right. Okay. Actually, while that's starting to get going, I'm going to start to heat up a little non-stick pan here. I'm just going to throw that on a medium heat. It doesn't need to get all that hot. And in that pan, throw a little olive oil. That's the pan we're going to be cooking our shrimp in. And the shrimp will stick if there's nothing to lube that up. Hence the olive oil. I should also note, the shrimp we're using is previously frozen, so I defrosted it and then I'll cook it. It came without the skin, which is kind of a bummer because the skin gives it a lot of flavor when it's cooking, but I'm also not making a stock or anything like that, so, you know, whatever, I don't care. All right, 10 more seconds on this side, and then it's time to start the searing action. All right, here we go. Now, you need to be a little careful when you're doing this. If you kind of do it close to the edge and oil splatters out, there's a good chance, there's a chance that you could start an oil fire, which is a really bad thing, by the way. You don't want that. All right, let's get this meat cooking. So what I do is I give it about 15-20 seconds or so on a side like that, and then I'm going to flip it over here and really get the fatty bit there. Make sure it gets some love from that hot oil on its own. I'm going to turn that over. Yeah. All that smoke coming out. All right, we've been doing this side sear thing for about 40 seconds. I want to make sure I get the whole thing so the whole side looks good. All right, almost done there. I'm going to throw in my butter. Butter's in the pan, and my garlic. Throw that in there, and the bundle o' thyme. All good, all in the pan. Okay, here we go. Now, gonna just kind of use the thyme and just kind of brush that on the steak for now. Just kind of mix that around with the butter as the butter melts. And I'm gonna give this thing a flipperoo every minute. Why am I gonna flip it every minute? Because I want it to kind of evenly cook up into the center of the steak. All right, this is the hard part with the cast iron because it is hot. All right, bring this around and just kind of baste it. Throw that. Now be careful when you do this because again, if you get it on the flame, you're going to start an oil fire and everyone's going to be unhappy. Keep that thyme in there. The crackling you hear is the thyme as it hits the hot fat. All right, so that's been about 1 minute on that side. Give that a flip. There we go. Thyme smells great, garlic smells great, and there is a ton of smoke in here. It is crazy. All right, here we go. Basting this guy with some butter. Totally one of my favorite vegan recipes, by the way. Just kidding, this is pretty far from vegan. Also, I think not good if you're kosher. Like, because we're doing dairy products along with the meat of the animal, something like that. I'm not Jewish and I don't really understand kosher eating, so I'm just kind of guessing. But anyway, I'm going to rub that thyme all over the meat here, kind of get that in there. All right, it's been 6.5 minutes. I'm going to give this about 20 more seconds. Almost burnt my hand off there. Fuck, that hurt. It's okay though. Little last bit of basting. A little shake, and that's done. So onto the resting pan or tray or board, whatever. God, I can't speak the words today. All right, I'm gonna rub that around in the stuff I put on the board already, and then let it sit. Give it a flip and let it sit. All right, so it's got some garlic, some oil, some other stuff. It's good to go. All right, off with the flame on this guy. Roll that out of the way. Now we can do some shrimp. All right, this has been heated over a medium heat. Let's get the shrimp going. I don't know if you can see it. It's really smoky in here. But that's cool. All right, so the shrimp, it's gonna lay them in the pan. The oil is hot enough. You can hear it sizzling. That's good. Now, shrimp shouldn't take too long to cook. Most people overcook shrimp, believe it or not. It definitely should not be rubbery when you eat it. Boom. Shrimp's in. And let's have some more Bloody Mary. Now, we can't be hanging back and resting on our laurels yet. We do need to make the sauce. So, I have a little saucepan here, and I'm going to throw into that a bunch of butter, probably 4 tablespoon-ish of butter. And I'm also going to, we need more butter than that. I'm going to throw in a whole ton of butter. If I make too much butter, that's okay. And then in addition to the butter, here comes that garlic that we minced up earlier. Throw that in there right away. And for fun, let's add a little salt. And a tiny bit of pepper. I'm going to turn this to the right to make it a fine grind. So that's kind of what I want for this garlic butter sauce here. Get some pepper in there. All right, let's melt that down. Don't need a lot of heat, maybe a medium. For that to do its business. All right. Now, when that gets going, once this is all melted, all it has to do is melt. We're not cooking anything. Once this thing melts, then I take my chipotle powder, give it a couple squirts in there until I get the right kind of color. It'll be great. And by the time this is melted, the shrimp will be done. Again, a shrimp is only a couple minutes on each side, and it's ready to go. When the shrimp's ready, then I'm going to actually toss that into this sauce and then plate it up and then pour some of the sauce over the shrimp. And that way you really get that butter and flavor distributed all throughout there. Man, it is so smoky in here, it's great. It's like I'm at a smokehouse or something. Well, that's tasty. All right, it's been a few minutes. I'm gonna give this shrimp a flip. So if you look at the shrimp, as they're cooking, I can see one side is cooked because it is a white colored meat that is also pink, and the other side is somewhat a pinkish translucent, which is not cooked. So give these things a flip. Flippity-doo. That fan is really loud, but it's so smoky, it's necessary. All right, we'll let that keep going. I'm actually gonna give this a tiny bit more heat. All right, so this butter is coming along. Give it a little stir. And keep the melting going. You know, pimping ain't easy, but it's necessary. So I'm chasing bitches like Tom chases Jerry. Thought I'd leave you with that. Words to think about, really. All right, I'm gonna turn this down because I don't want to actually brown my butter. That would be kind of gross for this application. But my butter is melted and golden and delicious and ready to go. Ready to receive some chipotle powder. Could you use chili powder? Yes. Should you? I don't know. I don't really like the flavor of chili powder, even though it's extremely prevalent in Mexican cooking. And chili. It just reminds me of bad chili when I taste like too much of that one flavor. A little bit more. Little bit more. Okay. So basically what I'm going for is a goldenrod kind of color here. That's how I know that I have enough of the seasoning in place. In fact, I'm going to kill this fan because, you know, and stuff. Okay. I'm going to call this butter ready to go whenever the shrimp is. So I'm going to turn that kind of to a low. Have another delicious cocktail swig here. It's just super hard to drink with the ice cubes. Okay. I'm going to get a straw. Yep. I'm drinking a Bloody Mary out of with a straw. I think that one needed more vodka too. TBH. All right, don't want the butter to brown. Keep that going. How's the shrimp looking? It needs another minute. Let's call it 1 minute. And then it'll be ready. Should I cut this steak open? It looks really dark. Let me just kind of show you that right now while we're waiting for it to rest and so forth. So if you saw it earlier, it was, wow, this is actually going to pour stuff everywhere. I am so on top of it. Just kind of de-juice this a little bit. Okay. Here it is. So, American Wagu, but now it's super brown because I threw it over super high heat and then basted the shit out of it with super hot fat butter, and it's got more flavor than I'll know what to do with. You know what I'm gonna put on this for steak sauce? Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. You know why? Because a good cut of beef doesn't need sauce. Somebody told me that once. He was my grandfather. They raised cattle. They knew about beef. Did they raise cattle? I don't know if they raised cattle. They raised sheep, but they knew about beef. That's all I gotta say about that. A good piece of beef doesn't need no sauce. That's true. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I think these shrimp are ready to go. So what I'm gonna do, this is the secret here. Oh wow, we got this golden sauce, and I can't really show it to you because the color is gonna look horribly wrong. All right, off with the heat here. Now I don't want to just pour this into the butter sauce because it'll get nasty with all of the juices that these shrimp kind of gave off as they were cooking. In fact, you can look at them kind of crusting up on the pan. It's kind of gross. So we don't need to do that. Instead, we're just going to use the tongs, give them a shake, and into the hot butter. Oh, crap. Ah, crap. Glad I cleaned that earlier. It's sanitary. Okay. So Erica's going to have some of these too, and she won't know which one's the bad one. It's okay. All right, so they're in the pan here. Boom. Just a quick boom. Great tongs. All right, I'm just gonna kind of mix them up so they've got a good amount of butter all over them. Now, if I was cooking with some fresh shrimp that came with their shells on, there'd be an intermediate step, of course, where I would take them and peel them into the trash and then throw them in there. But we don't have to worry about that because that was kind of already done for us prior to cooking. Okay, time to plate it up and get my eat on. Here we go. There's the plate. And I think it's obligatory to do the cut meat thing here. So let me just get the little bits of thyme branch off of here. Flip that over, see how the other side looks. Just kind of get that shit off. All right, steak's ready. Oh, and I just put a knife through it. That's cool. All right, there's a steak. Now, just to be fancy, I'm going to use a different knife to cut the steak. I'm going to use this guy because I don't use this one all that much. And I'm going to be lazy because I don't want to pre-cut my meal like a child. I'm just going to give it one cut. Oh yeah, look at that. Get that off of there. I don't want that. And shrimp's on low. I don't know why it's simmering. A little hot. Okay, so this is what the inside of Mr. Steak looks like. I don't even know if you can see that. See that pinkishness? That's exactly how I want it. It's pink end to end except for the gray on the edges, except the gray is really more of a brown. Yeah, I wish there was better light. I wish I had different equipment. I wish whatever, it's okay. Okay, so that's good to go. And final step here. Man, the smell of the garlic and the thyme is everywhere, especially because I literally, coated the entirety of this kitchen in smoke. Wow, it's really smoky in here. I'll have to open a window in a bit. Okay, here we go. Some shrimp on the plate to complement that. Now, you might be wondering, hey, usually you do a side dish, so it's like a complete meal. And you know what? I did, and I'm going to show you what that is. I did it yesterday, and it's something you need to kind of do in advance to really get the flavor to go all through it. I'll show you that in a second. It's one of my favorite little side dishes to make. Let's just do 6 shrimp for today. Tails are still on. Oh, yep, can't forget, we got to get some of that chipotle butter. The chipotle is real nice. Like I said, you could use chili powder, and that's fine. You could use any other kind of ground dried pepper that you want, but I found that the chipotle, it has like that smokiness because, it's like a roasted what kind of pepper. That's really what you want. All right, so here it is. Up close and personal. Surf and turf. If I had gone to Costco, then it would have been like the giant shrimp, and I would have had like 2 of them, the ones that weigh a quarter pound each. And then for a side dish, here we go, pulling it out of the fridge, if I can find it. It comes in Tupperware. That's how you know it's good. This, I'm gonna have to use another plate because I have butter everywhere. This is coleslaw, but it's special coleslaw. I'll give you a little secret. If you make your own coleslaw, which is just cabbage, right? Throw it in the food processor and then cut it into little bits. You know the reference, good for you. And then when you have the little bits, then it's delicious. And what I threw in here is a ton of garlic powder, so it's like garlicky, and then mustard powder. Try it. If you want the actual recipe that I use to make this coleslaw, you can go to the Google and type in keto coleslaw, and this is what you're gonna get, and it is bomb diggity. So anyway, I'll be having my keto coleslaw along with my American Wagu ribeye steak, perfectly cooked here, and my shrimp with garlic chipotle butter sauce that I made. All right, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this on YouTube, you probably didn't make it this far because the average length of viewing is about 14 seconds, and we're way beyond 14 seconds. Anyway, if this is YouTube, like, subscribe, click the things down there. In whatever platform you're watching this on, leave comments. What else do you want to see me live cook on Saturdays? Because, I cook dinner for myself. Anyway, thanks for watching. This has been another episode of you watching me cook myself dinner. Have a good night. I know I will.